Hi, I'm Eric Summerer, and here's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week.
Hey, I'm Tom Vassell, and welcome to the Dice Tower News for October 22nd, 2012. Lots of interesting things going on, but I'm going to start off with something personal. Nothing Personal, actually, which is a game of mine that's coming to Kickstarter really soon. Now, I don't have the exact date for it yet, but I can tell you this. There's going to be a link in the show notes where you'll be able to go and click and go to a web page where you can put in your email address, and we will tell you the instant it's online. Not like I won't mention it here and everywhere else also, but we're talking within weeks now. And because of that, also we're going to start this today. I'm going to start releasing some of the artwork for the game. We put up the board last week. Here you can take a look at the board, and you can see the board, while this is not totally complete, it's very close to being done here, and what the board's going to be like, and it's somewhat muted because of the colorful gangster cards that are going to be on it. Here's an example of one of the gangster cards. This one is of my co-designer Steve Avery, who's included in the game, and you can see here that he's not a very useful character initially, but he can steal that respect from other players, which can be a big deal in this game. So I'm going to be releasing one of these cards each day this week on Board Game Geek, and so you can go there and check out these cards, and hopefully that will interest you in this game. In other board gaming news, the big Great Essen Spiel Fair has just ended, so we're going to start seeing reports coming back from that soon. One of the reports is on Board Game Geek, where they do a thing called Geek Buzz to see the most, the games that people play at the fair. Now, you have to realize a couple things. One, this system is games that people can play right then, right there. So they're games that maybe won't take as long as other games, and there are also games that might have had a bigger presence, but what have you. The top 5 games of the fair are as following: Seven Wonders, the City expansion, and I've already done a review on that, so you can go look that up. And then Copycat, which is a game from Friedman Fries, which copies elements of Agricola and Dominion and other popular games, straight up copies them. He has permission from the original people and puts them all together in one game. Mirmez, which I don't know much about, was another one of the top 5. And then Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. Now this one I'm not surprised at, because it has a board with gears that move around, and they change the position of where you put your pieces on the board. And then the top game that people liked was Escape the Curse of the Temple. This is a lighter dice rolling game from Queen Games. I'm very interested in this one myself. Meanwhile, in other news, Ascension has announced that their newest expansion, Immortal Heroes, is coming out in just a week or so. And there's also a pile of other great games that are going to be coming out in November, so keep your eyes out for the following list. We have Garden Dice, Suburbia, D-Day Dice expansions, the new expansion for Descent 2nd Edition, Lair of the Worm, Warhammer Relic. Well, I don't need to look for that one. Core Worlds expansion, the DC Comic Deck Builder, and Space Cadets, which is my personal favorite of the bunch that I'm looking forward to, the cooperative space game from Jeff Engelstein, produced by Stronghold Games. The news story for me this week is from Plaid Hat Games, and it kind of came out of left field. I didn't know that this was even in the works. And they announced that they are going to be releasing a game based on the BioShock video game universe called BioShock Infinite. It's going to have plastic miniatures. I've already seen one. They look really good. And they said that this isn't going to just be some slapped on theme onto one of their existing games, or even just they really plan on making this an excellent board game. So the Plaid Hat Games, for me, have a very high batting average with their Summoner Wars, Mice and Mystics, and Dungeon Run. Let's see how that continues on as time goes by, so keep an eye on this game. That's our news story of the week. For reviews this week, Ryan Metzler is going to be taking a look at the Train dice game Rolling Freight. He'll also be taking a look at the cowboy shoot-'em-up card game from Slugfest called High Noon Saloon, and then 2 smaller games respectively called Ugh and Confetti. Scott is going to be taking a look at Catan Jr. and possibly have a couple other games from him. And Jim Reed is going to have a new video series that he's starting up on our channel, and the first one is going to be talking about deck building. But it might not be what you think. Come back and check that out. And here are the games I'll be reviewing this week. We have Veluspa, which is a reprint of Kachina, from Bucephalus, although this one has gods added to it. A card game from Korea called Rainbow 7. Kingsburg, a game that was on my top 100 list, so someone asked me to review of it, and I thought, I never did a video review of this, so you'll see one this week. A new game from Essen, kind of deck building style, and that's going to be Briefcase. A party game called Randomonium. A re-review, one we've done already, but I tried some new things out with this one called Pajaggle. And then a new game from Cranio Creations called 1969 about going to the moon. It's a race to be the first nation to get a rocket or get a man on the moon. So what do we have in the podcast world this week from the Dice Tower? We have two new podcasts that we're adding to the Dice Tower network. I'm very excited about both of these. The first is Hex Encounter with hosts Chad, Brian, and Adam. These guys it's basically a war game podcast, and we don't have one of those in the network right now, so I'm really glad if you're someone who likes war games and wants to get more involved in simulations and things like that, this is a great podcast to check out. And the second podcast is called The Long View. With host Jeff Gamble, he takes one game per episode, and usually it's a game that's been out for a while. And so they're taking a long view, taking a look back at it, and they go into depth on that one game for the course of that episode. In fact, just this past week, he released an episode where I was the guest host, and we talked about Cosmic Encounter for a long time on it, and that was very enjoyable, so you can check that out. For our existing podcast, D6 Generation has guest Drew Kremens on, and he talks to them about some different things, and they especially go into a detailed review of Zombicide. The Cardboard Jungle talks about Firefly a bit, but they also have a few interviews with a couple people, Jason Tagmeyer and the slacker Tom Vassell. Again, talking about Nothing Personal. Secret Cabal number 28 has Stephen Bonaker on it. What a surprise! And also, they go into depth, they talk about Stronghold games, but they also give an in-depth review on bootleggers, and they talk about Carson City. And Ludology 42A has come out, where they talk more about their very boring sounding game, Traders in the Mediterranean, and talk about the card mix in that, but they promise that it's more interesting than that sounds. So if you'd like to hear a game being designed in front of you, in essence, that would be a podcast to check out. And then this week, number 278 of the Dice Tower is coming out, where I'll be talking about some of the games like that 1969 one I just showed you, and Hoo-Ya and Briefcase. And at the end of the episode, we will be talking about our top 10 gangster games. What are they? Well, I'll give you a hint. There's not as many good gangster games out there as you might think, so listen to that episode to find out. Before we go, a couple more things. Don't forget that the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund auction is starting at the beginning of November. So that's very close, so be prepared to help donate things to that auction and to bid on the things that are in that auction. Board Game Geek Con is coming up in the middle of November, and me and my co-host Eric Summer will be there, and we're going to be doing a live show of the Dice Tower. Not live, but we'll record it live, and we want you on the show. So, and also I'll be taking videos there and asking questions and doing things, so hopefully we can get involved and see you at Board Game Geek Con in Dallas, Texas. Finally, don't forget, Remy Gibson puts out the news 3 times a week in his little audio podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you can find out all sorts of news at GameSaluteNews.com, where I'll be putting up as much news as I can find it. Any news that I break, I will put there as soon as I get it. And if you have news, you can always send it to me. And then finally, if you like the Dice Tower, you can always support us by going to Dicetower.com and clicking on support. And we have custom Dice Towers. We have dice. We have promos from Plaid Hat Games for Summoner Wars. We have promos from Stronghold Games for Panic Station and Revolver and Lost Temple. And we have promos from Tasty Minstrel for Eminent Domain. So all that you can find on our website at Dicetower.com, along with plenty of reviews. Oh, and the top 100 games of all time. We break the top 50 this week. What games are on it? Well, come back tomorrow and you'll see.
Find all this and more at Dicetower.com. See you soon.
Game series called BioShock Infinite with miniatures in it. Now, they have said that this is not going to be... Let's try that again.
Shut the door!
That's right. Shut it.